What's really interesting is that the internet has unlocked an enormous amount of potential for a lot of people, in that you have all of these available tools that are given to you. And sorry, I thought I saw a snake. Welcome to living in Florida. We have all of these available amazing tools that are given to us, and yet many of us actually don't use these things, and many of us have sort of had difficulty with the transition towards using the internet. I know that many of the younger generations don't necessarily experience that or has experienced that, but my generation and it has been a real transition towards using the internet, and most of us have actually used it as consumption devices, sort of replace the radio or replace television, newspaper, those kind of things. But what's interesting with the internet is that it's very much democratized a lot of content creation and a lot of what we actually do. And the funny thing is that people are not using it for that. And it has enormous amounts of potential for getting your message across, for talking to an audience, for anything in terms of, just trying to let people know that they're great people, for example. And most of us don't use it as this tool. And I want to talk about that. So if you don't know me, I am Professor Dave Masek. I'm Associate Professor of Innovation Strategy and Entrepreneurship. And I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There's so many people that help me out that I wanted to pay the favor forward to help you out. I think that there's sort of a couple of things that are happening to sort of explain why we're not doing this. And the reason why it says it has enormous potential for getting your message out. Well, first of all, for getting your message out, that, but also for doing business. How many small businesses and how many large businesses don't do this, or just even people? There's actually a pretty good solid base of research at this moment showing that using the internet is actually a pretty effective way of doing business, and yet we even don't do that. And even the funny thing is many of the scholars that sort of study this stuff don't do it. And why is that going on? There's lots of explanations, but I think the first thing is realizing that there's a tremendous amount of work involved to it, right? So if you notice, what I've been doing is putting out all this content, and it takes so much time and effort to do this. And so there's this behavioral component to actually doing this, where it's much akin to, weight loss or exercise or something along those lines, where you're just doing it as you go along, and you constantly have to do it every day. And so that component of our life is actually really hard, this sort of behavioral component where we're doing something absolutely every day. And the reason is it consumes, bandwidth. It's another thing that you have to do. It's the sort of repetitive nature of things, and a lot of people just don't like that. That's a super hard thing to deal with. That's why we have a lot of people that are overweight or make poor health decisions, financial decisions, virtually everything in terms of decision making has this sort of behavioral component that's very hard. And so people don't like to do it because of that, because of the amount of work that's involved. It's not the work at the moment, it's the work doing it all the time, repetition, over and over and over again. That's hard. The second thing that I think is even harder is that you're putting yourself up for display. And when you do that, you're exposing yourself to a lot of uncertainty. And it's something that I study, uncertainty, risk and uncertainty, and it's a component of entrepreneurship and innovation. And every sort of action that you have has risk and uncertainty with it. And generally, most people just as a a rule, they don't like risk and uncertainty. We avoid it as much, greatly avoid it as much as we can. That uncertainty of somebody's going to make fun of you, uncertainty of, stranger danger, putting it out there because somebody might do something bad to you. And all of those things are really, they do happen. And so you have to weigh the risks of doing those things, and what that actually means, and sort of think about what your message is, for example. I think that those are important things. So what I've learned through doing this reciprocity project is that some ways it's very freeing, but some ways it's weird to be as open as I am. And I'm always worried about that. It's not necessarily the risk of something happening, but it's more of it just being open. And I think more of, what people are going to say about what I'm doing and what I'm about. And that is really, it's not a good feeling. It's not a nice feeling. So I think a lot of people get stuck up in that, where they don't necessarily feel great in the particular action when they're doing it. So know that if you're doing anything like this, good morning, how are you? Know that if you're doing anything like this, is that you have to be absolutely ready to be open, and know that there is a great amount of potential there with doing it, but just know that it's going to have a weird feeling, and you're not going to be used to it ever. But you have to just kind of push yourself through it. So that's where the whole behavioral component of it. So remember, when you're doing anything like this, know that there is a lot of potential. And it's enormous potential, right? Like the internet is an amazing thing. And yet most of us are not taking advantage of this sort of opportunities that present themselves because of the internet. It's enormous. Like, you're reaching so many people around the world and connecting with them, and yet we don't take advantage of those opportunities. And part of that is because of this behavioral component of doing it all the time. You have to do it. Nobody's going to watch one video. If you put one video out, nobody cares. If you put out 10,000 videos, maybe somebody's going to care from that. But doing 10,000 videos is enormous. That's a lot of work. And so know that is a component of it, the behavioral component. But I think the biggest thing is the fear of what other people are going to say about you. And if that's the case, don't worry about them. Know that, the rando that's saying something nasty about you, like, think about where they're coming from and how not a great place that they're in to do that. I don't go around, saying nasty things to other people. And I'm pretty messed up in my head too. So, just they have to be just at a really bad spot. So if you're doing this, just know that, just get used to it, is what I'm saying. And know that there is a tremendous amount of potential available at your fingertips, and yet you're not taking advantage of it. So that's all I wanted to talk about. I think it's a good message, is to not be afraid of what other people are going to say. Do things for a long time, because the results are actually, they do pan out, but it just takes a long time. Everything in life is like that. All right. So with that, have a good day, and take care, and have a good day.